Yeah, Bill Belichick is obviously special, and we're very grateful for you stopping by here today. I think yesterday you had a little surgery of some sort on.
No.
I mean, of all days, I have to go get a root canal, and I have to do it on the day that all this news happens, right? Like, who could have predicted this, right? I got a guy sticking stuff in my mouth, and my phone's flying off, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, there's a lot of stuff happening around the world here today." But
if you could,
I was fortunate. I got out. I saw the press conference, which I thought was well done. I thought it was mutual respect on both parties. I thought Kraft gave a great a lesson in there that a lot of owners, if you're David Tepper, if you're Josh Harris, I think he gave a great lesson about being a new owner in the league, about how he made a huge mistake, not trusting his instincts, listening to too many people outside the building, not hiring Bill when Parcells went to the Jets, changing course, and then deciding 2 years later to trust his gut. It was a Hall of Fame decision, and Mr. Kraft belongs in the Hall of Fame for that decision because if he doesn't make that decision, there's not 6 Super Bowls, there's not 8 appearances, there's not unlimited conference championships, and the value of his franchise may not be at the same level.
And the Patriot Place and everything else they got built up around there. It's a phenomenal business built around a phenomenal football team. Let's talk about that football team. They have a new head coach, and it is being reported now that there was a succession plan. Shout out to that show, by the way.
Yeah,
I think it won
unbelievable.
A bunch of awards.
Congrats.
Wom's Games, I think, took a couple home.
Roman
did. Congrats to them.
Roman.
But there was a succession plan allegedly in place.
Who is going to be Roman in this one? That'll be the interesting character to develop at Patriot, right?
We don't need a Roman. We don't need a Roman.
There will always be.
Yeah, we need Wom's Games. Nope.
But anyways, with the succession plan, before last season, they both signed through 2024. I guess Bill and Mayo and Kraft knew that he was potentially going to get the baton. Then there were stories back in the day of like McDaniels is the successor. That's why whenever he was potentially coming to the Colts, then he turned around, flew back, had a meeting. He's the successor. Has that always been how it's been planned? Like, is there a coach on the staff that has been told, hey, if Bill was to retire or if Bill was to move on or Bill was to be done, you are going to be the successor? And how come more teams don't do that? Like, this feels like a smooth, clean, like smart way to handle this particular situation by Kraft. But I guess not every building has the successor inside of it. Is that kind of why? Enlighten me a little bit.
Oftentimes the successor gets hired away. I think Alabama, you wonder why they didn't have somebody right there. Maybe they will hire Tommy Rees. I don't know. But I think, knowing that Nick could train the next coach, but what happens is these other teams come in and take the coach away, and all of a sudden, can you turn down? And nobody really knew how long Bill was going to coach in New England, and did the Patriots. I think this is a lot about shifting of the organization more than replacing. I mean, Jerod Mayo is not going to replace Bill Belichick in every facet of Bill Belichick's job. He's going to replace him as the coach of the team, and that's going to be a lot for him to handle, and he'll do a great job with that. However, the other roles and hats that Bill wore within the organization are then going to be split up. So it's kind of like unfair to compare Jerod to Bill because Bill's role was so vastly different. And they're going to need to bring people in. They're going to need to have this committee together to work together to utilize the structure that was in place, built by Bill. But now people are going to have different roles and different responsibilities, which is going to have to bring everybody together.
Have you ever heard of that, though? Like, is that normal to have it in contract? Hey, you're the successor? That feels like a big deal.
No, it is a big deal, because I think ultimately you're not sure about any coach, right? You know that if the guy is really good, you don't know if Belichick's going to leave. And typically good coaches get swept up. I think this year, Pat, it is a generational situation in professional football in terms of the availability of quality head coaches, winning head coaches. Mike Vrabel's in the open market. Jim Harbaugh is available, 71% winning percentage at San Francisco. Bill Belichick's available. Dan Quinn took a team to a Super Bowl. He would be a leading candidate, but now we have all this. And so I think because of that, teams that may still have a head coach currently have to ask themselves the fundamental question, would we be better off with Coach Y, who's available, or with our present-day coach? I'm not trying to get anybody fired. I'm just saying that is a fair question to ask if you are truly a business person in terms of how do we improve the team.
I love that all Chicago Bears fans yesterday seemingly Jay said, we're keeping Eberflus over Bill Belichick.
Come on.
We're keeping Eberflus over Jim Harbaugh. We're keeping Eberflus over Mike Vrabel. We're keeping Eberflus over all this. And they're not the only ones, but they just so happen to be the loudest because the announcement about Eberflus was just a few weeks ago. Eberflus had that team turn around towards the tail end of it, which leads to this question from Tone.
Yeah, Lombo, now that Bill is out and Kraft wished him all the best when he's on the sidelines, except for when he's on the sidelines versus the Patriots. So we all took that he is going to continue coaching. Where do you think the best fit for Bill could be?
I think, when he left Cleveland, if you read the book, The Education of a Coach by David Halberstam, there's a quote in there that Halberstam wrote where he said the next job that Bill took when he left Cleveland would be a job that allowed him to build the culture, that allowed him to install his system and the players that fit within the framework of the culture. Now, most people read into that as power hungry, right? Most people say, well, he wants all the power. That's not what they're saying. The same thing, that's not what Jim Harbaugh would want. They're culture hungry. Those coaches need to be able to have the culture that fits their style. They can't have the general manager talking to the team or the owner having a radio show or somebody else having something else with the team. There has to be one voice in the organization that dictates the culture, that creates the direction, that holds the players accountable. And when you look around the NFL, when you don't have that ability, then it's very challenging. Andy Reid, when he left Philadelphia, he went to Kansas City. Clark Hunt still had Scott Pioli as his president, general manager. Andy Reid wanted to have all the control. He wasn't power hungry. He was culture hungry. So then they got rid of Pioli. They gave Andy Reid all the authority. However, he hired then John Dorsey and now Brett Veach to help him and assist him as they both build the culture together. And I think that's where the next job will be, whether it's this year or somewhere else. And you're going to have to fit that criteria, right? The Washington football team didn't want that criteria. They wanted to have what they did today, Adam Peters to be the president, CEO, general manager, and then let him hire the coach. And that's their prerogative. But for those guys, for Harbaugh, for Belichick, even for Vrabel, you have to have that. Vrabel was in a similar situation that Harbaugh was in San Francisco. So when Harbaugh was in San Francisco, there was conflict within the building. The 49er front office decided they had enough of Harbaugh. It was too hard. He left and went to Michigan. They kept Trent Baalke as the general manager. He hired Jim Tomsula. That didn't work. They hired Chip Kelly. That didn't work. And next thing you know, here comes Kyle Shanahan. And what did they do with Kyle Shanahan? They said, Kyle, you're going to run the team. You hire who you want as your general manager.
47.
And now you build the culture.
Lynch. Give me Lynch.
Bring him in.
Need him. We need to do this. We need to create it. If you have a special mind, you should be able to do that. He's not power hungry. He's culture hungry. What a spin on that.
Love that.
That is I'm going to remember that bar for the rest of my life, I think, because, whenever you go somewhere and you say like, nah, I'm keeping this, they can spin it. You can let somebody else. This guy wants all of it. No. Just want to make sure it's right.
That's all.
Just want to make sure it's right. And there's nothing wrong with that, Lombo. Nothing at all wrong with
No, you can't do Bill can't be Bill if he doesn't have that. Like, you can't be good at that. And I think he knew that when he left Cleveland. That was the biggest issue in Cleveland. Is Art Modell loved to talk. He loved to put expectations on the team. He wanted the team to be his team. And that's every right every owner has, right? I think it happened in Denver when Dan Reeves was there. Dan Reeves was very successful in Denver, and Pat Bowlen said, look, I want my team back. I want to be able to be the guy that runs the team. Okay, you fire Dan Reeves, you go on, and life moves on. But for Dan Reeves to be successful, for Mike Shanahan to be successful, for Sean McVay to be successful, they need to be able to control the environment to which the players are in. We are not basketball. There's too many players. And so the coach has to stand in front of the team and be able to dictate the culture. Because having spent so many years at the Raiders, when everyone thinks the owner is in control of the culture, you have a Civil War-like environment.
If the coach isn't all in on the owner being the guy, everybody just has to know whose role is what. And I think Bill Belichick, as soon as he gets in the building, everybody in the city knows whose role is what. And I think Harbaugh, same exact thing.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to hear that you think Vrabes has that same exact type of kind of feel. him getting fired was wild. That was a wild thing. But let's not move on from New England just yet, because Connor has a question for you.
Yeah, Lombo, just first things first. It's not Jerod Mayo, it's Jerod. Just Jerod.
Okay.
Rod.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So, can you text me that and spell it out?
Yeah. We'll do the phonetic spelling for you. Also,
Thank you.
happy 25th anniversary of The Sopranos.
Yep.
I know you're probably
Beautiful,
bricked up about
I should
that.
have been at that dinner. I'm so disappointed I didn't get invited to that dinner. But anyway, life goes on.
Yeah,
You should have been there.
Should have been.
Now that I think about it,
Oh, yeah.
should have been there.
Yeah.
Tommy Cutledge was probably there.
I'm sure he
probably.
was.
Yeah.
Stellato.
Was there. And, yeah, if I had Tommy Cutlet's agent, I probably would have been there. That's the problem, right?
You see.
Yeah, maybe not. Okay.
But Lamo, thinking about the Patriots and the future, kind of you mentioning culture kind of makes me think about it. Do they need to change anything, or is it just kind of, hey, that culture's in place, Mayo, let's just keep it rolling? And do you think Mayo's philosophy will be much different than Bill's? Is this going to be a kind of different team era for New England? And then what happens with Bill O'Brien, the Steve Belichick, the guys that are in place now? Are they safe, or do you think this might be a complete total overhaul here?
Well, I think certainly on defense it will be a complete total overall. I can't speak for Bill O'Brien. The offensive line coach, Adrian Clem, had some health issues, so he had to leave, and some of the offensive coaches have already left. Ross Douglas went back to Syracuse. So, to me, one of the things that gets often lost in all this in terms of what is the Patriot way is really accountability, holding everybody accountable for doing their jobs to the best that they can do it. And how Mayo gets there, how he gets there, he has to do it his own way, because no one's going to duplicate what Belichick did. No one can be Belichick. We know that. No one can copy his style, his mannerism, and how he handles the team. So one thing Mayo knows is he's watched it. But what has got to be the cornerstone of his head coaching tenure is holding people accountable. Jim Harbaugh has a different style than Bill Belichick. There's no question, right? Jim Harbaugh is way different. But Jim Harbaugh and Belichick meet at the same line of accountability. Harbaugh doesn't call offensive plays. He doesn't call defensive plays. He runs the program, he runs the team, and he holds coaches and players accountable. That's what a good head coach has to do. That's what Mayo has to do. He's got to hire good assistants, hold them accountable, develop the talent from within, and move forward. And that's where they're going to go. I think there'll be a change in defense, no question. Offensively, Bill O'Brien signed a 3-year contract when he came in. Now, whether he stays or not, I think those are the discussions that are ongoing.